Hello, beautiful people. My name is Donna Sinnott, known as Boob Donna in my groups, and you are here to learn how to get started with breastfeeding. So this is going to be super fun and super fabulous. You're going to learn a lot about how to get started. You're going to learn about the basics. You're going to learn if your baby's getting enough, positioning, milk expression, storage, and all of those fun things. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about me so you know who's talking to you. And so I have been a mom for almost 30 years, and I've been an internationally board certified lactation consultant for 20. I know it's shocking when I say it out loud. And so clearly I was very, very young when I had my first. And so I was really super scared about childbirth. And so I took 5 different kinds of childbirth classes because I wanted to be prepared for the type of birth that I wanted. And I recommend everybody take classes to figure out how you're going to manage when you're squishing out a watermelon out of a small hole. So that being said, I had a lot of classes, and really in all of them, nobody really talked about infant feeding or the choices I would have to make. So I just assumed that I would breastfeed. Now, when my mom had me in the 60s, women were not allowed to gain more than 15 pounds in their pregnancy. My mom was put on diet pills for pregnant women, and everyone around her smoked except my mom. And my dad was not allowed in the delivery room. He was down the hall in the men's smoking lounge. And at that time, women were not empowered to breastfeed. Their thought process is that by breastfeeding, it would tie you down, you wouldn't have a lot of freedom, and it's not something that all women did. And so slowly but surely, as years go by and people have learned more about infant health and maternal health, is when I stepped in, and then I had a baby, and I just figured it would just crawl up and breastfeed. Well, here's the beautiful news. Half of your babies will try and crawl up and breastfeed, and half of them will be like, yeah, I don't know. There's clocks and there's rules and there's schedules. They come with no instruction manual. Most of the time, some of you that are going to have a baby, you've actually never held a baby, changed a diaper, breastfed, and they're going to give you this child that comes with absolutely no instruction manual of any kind. So this is where we're going to break it down, and this is my Getting Started with Breastfeeding class. And so a little bit more about me. So when I delivered, I actually had a beautiful birth experience, and then nobody helped me in the hospital. I was a hot mess, and so I had a day. Day 4 is the day that ounces of milk show up in your boobs. And my beautiful husband just remembers me stamping my feet, and he said, there's got to be somebody that we can call. And so we called this woman who was a lactation consultant. And we went to her house, and she had brownies baking in the oven and kids running around. And what we did is she sat me down, she listened to my story, she set me up with pillows, we used hand expression and a hand pump, and when we latched that baby and she taught me that baby has to be wide and the lip has to be flipped out, I braced myself for pain, and after 3 seconds it felt better. And I thought, I think I can do this one more day. And then I did it another day, and then I did it another day. And so slowly I went to different mom groups and support groups. When I had my second, I became a volunteer breastfeeding counselor. Many communities, and now online as well, have volunteer breastfeeding groups. There's peer counselor groups, and there's women that are trained that can help you on your journey. So I did that for a couple years, as well as all my other fun jobs. And so then I said, okay, how can I get paid to do what I love to do? And so then I became an internationally board certified lactation consultant, and I have been that for the last 20 years. Right now, my primary role is as a hospital-based lactation consultant, and I really want all of you to know the little pieces and the little things you need to know to make your life easier. And so here we are now. You're ready to get started. And so how are we going to start? We're going to talk about your motivation. We're going to talk about the benefits of breastfeeding, because you're going to have a day, girlfriend, you're going to have a day that you're going to go, oh my God, should I let this creature suck on me again? And so having the motivation, having the reasons that it's valuable to you is going to get you through one more day. And so when we're talking about the benefits of breastfeeding, it's also the benefits of breast milk. So the benefits of breastfeeding, there's benefits to baby and there's benefits to mom. So we're going to start with the benefits to the baby. So there's 2 ways to feed a baby, right? So there's formula and there's breast milk. And so what happens is that the breast milk not only is a good source of food, but it has antibodies and immune factors, and there's components in it that help create a baby's healthy gut system and healthier brain. And so their brain and their body work a little bit better. And so when that happens, most babies that are breastfed have less ear infections, gastrointestinal infections like diarrhea and things like that. And so by having less common childhood illnesses, there's also a benefit that carries over to some childhood diseases like leukemia, diabetes. By breastfeeding, babies can set their own pace, and so breastfed babies tend to take in less calories, but more efficient calories. So when they set their own pace, they're not necessarily overfeeding. And so think many of us, and I'm one of them, I'm part of the Clean Plate Club. You put it all in front of me, I want to eat the whole thing. And so that's the difference between bottle feeding and breastfeeding. Is when we have bottles, we think, okay, we're going to fill it up and the baby has to take all they can. So with breastfeeding, they can set their own pace, which will decrease that childhood obesity, which also sets them up for less obesity later in life. There are some other diseases and illnesses, but one in particular that's rare, that's evil, is something called sudden infant death syndrome. And so sudden infant death syndrome is something that is really reduced in exclusively breastfeeding babies. So exclusively breastfeeding is the term where you're just getting breast milk all the time. You're not taking solids or taking any formula. So what happens is when you give into this breastfeeding thing 24 hours a day, you all get on the same sleep cycles, and that may have a benefit, but also by being breastfed can decrease that risk of sudden infant death syndrome for some babies anywhere from 50 to 70%. And so that's just one of the many benefits. So besides the benefits to the baby, there's benefits to the mom. So these are mammary glands. So believe it or not, there are over 5,000 mammal species, and so which means they feed their young with their boobies, or with their teats, as we might call them. And so what happens is in the human body, by breastfeeding, you're switching on your mammary glands. And so mature cells in the body are more resistant to cancer-causing activities. Now, of course, there are many genetic factors that have to do with cancer, but what happens is that by switching them on and breastfeeding, even one child for a short period of time can actually decrease your risk of breast cancer. And then it's dose-related, we say. So the more kids you have and the more that you can breastfeed or produce breast milk will decrease that risk over time. And so also by breastfeeding, you're taking a different type of break in your estrogen cycles, and so that also can decrease your risk of ovarian cancer. Also, they have found recently that by breastfeeding, compared to women that do not breastfeed, women have less heart disease and heart attacks later in life, so it has a long-term benefit as well. And then there's some really cool immediate things, even if you want to breastfeed for a day. And so what happens is these mammary glands, these breast ladies, are actually bullseyes with shower heads in the middle. And so what happens is that when a baby suckles on the breast, ideally as soon after delivery, as soon as mom and baby are medically stable, when that baby suckles on the breast, it sends a message from the boobs to the brain, and the love hormone starts coming out from your brain into your boobs and actually rolls down into your uterus and sends some small muscle contractions into your uterus. Sometimes it really feels like cramps. I mean, you're like, I just had a baby, why am I cramping? So what happens is that as that oxytocin rolls through, which means your baby is sucking milk out of you, contracts that uterus, which is going to decrease your postpartum bleeding and create more, we call it uterine involution, meaning your uterus is going to go back to that pre-pregnancy size faster if you're breastfeeding as well. And so also the act of breastfeeding, just laying around being gorgeous, you burn an extra 400 to 500 calories a day. And so by doing that, many women that are breastfeeding tend to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week by just taking care of your baby kind of thing. And so that's the tough part. It took 9 months to put it on. It can take 9 months to take it off, but you actually need to have some fat stores on your body through pregnancy and through lactation, because your body has a backup plan in case you can't find good sources of food and water. So there are a lot of physical benefits, emotional benefits and things that will get you through that tough day when you go, okay, I will do this one more day kind of thing. One of the other things that is my most fabulous thing about breastfeeding is, have you heard of the spit backwash theory? So here's the deal with the spit backwash theory, is that let's say somebody comes along in your life and coughs their evil germs on your baby, particularly this evil virus that's taking over the world. So let's say someone coughs on your baby. What happens is that little baby's body starts fighting that infection, and the little saliva, little spit, mixes on your boobie, on your mammary gland, and sends a message from your boobies to your brain that says, I need antibodies to this evil virus. And within hours, your body builds antibodies and immune factors that floats back into the boobies and back into the baby that helps them create that healthy immune system and antibodies to fight that infection. So that's how babies have less ear infections and all kinds of infections, because they're getting antibodies and immune factors from the mom. And so in return, by the baby asking mom's body for them, then mom's body builds that immunity as well. And it also works in reverse. If you're not feeling well, mom has a flu, she has a cold, she has a bacterial infection, anything that mom has that her body is building those infection fighting organisms in there, anything that mom has, their body knows that she's lactating and sends those antibodies into the booby juice, which then sends it into the baby and creates a healthier mom and baby couplet. And everybody's going to know a happy mommy is a happy family. All right, thank you so much for watching. So what I am offering to the digital world is a super fabulous Getting Started with Breastfeeding class, in addition to a full postpartum support package. So please check me out at boobdonna.com.